It began on that bright November day in Dallas. There's the building from which the fatal shots were fired, shots which have echoed round the world, murdering a man in the full flower of his achievement, and bringing sorrow and shame upon the millions he sought to serve. Shame for the twisted reasoning which must have seen some obscure purpose in this terrible thing. Shame for the mockery of the rule of law, the second murder, that of Lee Harvey Oswald. In a moment you'll see that other notorious actor in the tragedy, Jack Ruby, who was to take the law into his own hands, rushing forward to murder Oswald. Moment frozen in time, but in such a moment and by such a man, America lost her leader and the world a source of confidence and strength. He led a nation, but he was also undisputed leader of the free world, as much respected in Russia as the West for his resolute work for peace. His death poses some tremendous questions. What will be Mr. Khrushchev's reaction? Will he inspire some new crisis to test the strength of the new leadership? Could he use Berlin, a permanent bone of contention, as the excuse for a new challenge? Could he apply the ruthlessness that made him build the wall to raise another barrier between us? President Kennedy always sought his objectives through conciliation, and it's reassuring to know that President Johnson shares his predecessor's approach. Let us reason together is the Texan's motto, but with a presidential election facing him next year, how much of his energy will he be able to devote to world affairs? To succeed a man of Kennedy's caliber is a challenge in itself, but these pictures of his visit to West Berlin during the 1961 crisis underline his ability to give reassurance and strength. The Kennedy policy of conciliation without weakness was most clearly demonstrated in the Cuba crisis. Will Khrushchev choose Castro as his puppet for some new provocation? In view of the explosive anti-Castro faction in America, Lyndon Johnson might need all his peacemaking powers. And what about the uncommitted world, the nations who have to be wooed for their allegiance? Any weakness in America could open the door for Russia. But one of the biggest issues in America is, of course, the question of civil rights. Racial equality was one of John Kennedy's chief concerns, and the great march to Washington this summer, campaigning for equal rights and opportunities, won great sympathy for the Negro cause. But in spite of Lyndon Johnson's record as an ardent supporter, the death of their champion John Kennedy has been a bitter blow. A tragedy at a time when the end of their journey was in sight.
Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last!
Today in Washington, the voices are silent. Here to the Capitol, where he was sworn in as President of the United States in January 1961, the mortal remains of John F. Kennedy are reverently borne. The coffin was to lie in state upon a catafalque where Abraham Lincoln lay after his assassination almost 100 years ago. John Kennedy, the fourth American president to die from an assassin's bullet. Throughout these first long days of her bereavement, Jacqueline Kennedy bore her sorrow with dignity and fortitude. She kneels at the coffin to kiss it. The most bitter wounds of sorrow are hers alone to bear, but it may be some small comfort to know that millions are sharing something of her tragedy. Many thousands of these sympathizers paid their last tribute at the Capitol. Millions more throughout the world joined them in spirit, in grief for Jacqueline, in mourning for her husband.